Welcome to another deep dive. We're going deep into the darkest minds today. A world where a mysterious illness called Ian has wiped out most of the children,
Yeah.
and those that survived developed psi powers.
Right?
We'll be using Liam's story to understand this world.
Sounds fascinating.
So this story you provided offers a really unique perspective because it's from the perspective of a boy who lives in this world.
Yes. And the world of the darkest minds really taps into some of those anxieties we have, like
Yeah,
pandemics and government overreach,
absolutely.
and this potential misuse of really powerful technology.
Especially seeing it through Liam's eyes.
Yeah.
And speaking of Ian, this illness that wipes out most of the children, you pointed to the death of Grace in Liam's story.
Yeah.
She's seemingly healthy,
Right.
and she just dies suddenly at school.
Right.
It's so random and terrifying.
It is.
And it reminded me of like the early days of the COVID pandemic,
Yeah.
where, it was this invisible threat and nobody knew what was going on and everyone was
Yeah, lots of uncertainty.
just panicked.
Yeah.
And then we have President Gray's address to the nation
Yeah.
after this starts happening, and he's offering this reassurance.
Uh-huh.
But there are these hints at a darker agenda
Yeah.
because he's talking about, programs and children blessed enough to survive.
Yes, and this is something that we see throughout history, right?
Oh, totally.
Where uncertainty breeds fear,
Yeah.
and then those in power use that fear to expand their control.
It's almost eerie how much this mirrors some real-world events.
Yeah.
Think about 9/11 and the Patriot Act.
Absolutely.
It significantly expanded government surveillance powers,
Right.
and the justification was because of the fear
Yeah, that's right.
after those attacks.
Yeah.
And in Liam's story, we see that same fear being used to control those who are deemed different, those psi kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this control becomes even more evident.
Yeah.
When we look at Thurmond, the government-run camp where they send all the kids with psi abilities,
Yeah.
and Liam describes it as just a place of constant surveillance, enforced silence, and brutal punishments.
It is.
Everything about it just points to this system,
Yeah.
designed to instill fear and obedience.
Yeah.
Even just small details,
Right.
like the painted bus windows, create this chilling image
Yes.
of isolation and control.
They're really trying to cut them off, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like they're trying to erase their connection to the outside world completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there are the PSFs, the Psi Special Forces.
Yeah.
They patrol the grounds, enforcing that control with an iron fist.
Right.
I mean, Liam's account of the red-haired PSF slapping a boy for complaining about hunger,
Right. Yeah.
that's just disturbing.
It is.
It shows just how dehumanized these children are.
It does.
They're treated more like prisoners
Yeah.
than individuals with unique abilities.
That's right.
And Liam also mentions a boy with a broken face whispering to a girl
Right.
before she tries to escape.
Wow.
It makes you wonder,
It does.
what horrors these kids have had to endure
Yeah.
that they're willing to risk such daring escape.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to Ruby, who we know plays a key role in the main Darkest Minds series,
Yes.
although Liam refers to her as Green.
Uh-huh.
Like all telekinetic children in his story, he actually witnesses firsthand her unique orange ability.
Yeah.
We know from your notes that this power to manipulate minds is both a gift and a curse for Ruby.
It is.
And we see this reflected in Liam's account of her using her ability on a PSF at Thurmond.
Right.
It really shows how even those in controlled PSFs
Yeah.
are afraid of these kids
Yes.
and the power they possess.
It underscores the government's motivation for controlling them.
Yeah.
Not just containing them.
And then we have Ruby's escape from Thurmond, which is orchestrated by the enigmatic Dr. Begbie.
Yes.
Liam actually witnesses this escape.
He does.
And in his account, there's a sense of both hope and trepidation.
Yeah.
Because it seems like Dr. Begbie's taking a huge risk,
Oh, yeah.
helping Ruby escape.
Yeah.
And her cryptic warnings about the outside world foreshadow the danger that awaits.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's such a turning point in both Ruby's and Liam's journey.
It is.
Because Ruby is stepping out into this unknown world,
Right.
full of danger,
Yeah.
and then Liam is left behind,
Right.
still trapped within the oppressive system.
It makes you wonder,
It does.
what would happen if Liam had escaped with Ruby?
Yeah,
If their paths would have continued to intertwine?
it's a good question.
Yeah.
But even though they're physically separated,
Right.
their stories are still connected.
Yeah.
Liam then encounters the Children's League, which offers another perspective on this world.
Yeah.
Initially, they seem like a beacon of hope,
Yes.
this refuge for escaped Psy kids.
Right.
But Liam realizes that things aren't so black and white.
Right.
They offer protection, but they also exert a subtle form of control.
That's right.
It's like they're trading one form of confinement
Yeah.
for another.
It's fascinating because
Right.
they embody the moral ambiguities of power, you know?
Totally.
They're fighting for freedom, but then they're willing to use some questionable methods,
Right.
which
Well,
kind of blurs the lines between good and bad.
exactly. And,
Yeah.
take Martin, for example,
Right.
who Liam describes as this errand boy
Uh-huh.
who uses his mind control abilities
Yeah.
in this kind of disturbing way
Yeah.
to manipulate others for his own gain.
Right.
It's such a stark contrast to Ruby,
Yeah.
who really struggles with the ethics of her abilities.
It really raises the question
It does.
of what happens when, those fighting for a just cause
Yeah.
become corrupted
Yeah.
by the power that they seek to dismantle.
So it's like Liam is being forced to confront this uncomfortable reality
Yeah.
that even those fighting for good can be corrupted.
It definitely challenges our own perceptions of what's good and what's bad.
Totally. And then we have Kate,
Yeah.
a leader in the League, who initially seems compassionate.
Right.
But as Liam gets to know her,
Uh-huh.
he starts to see this ruthlessness,
Yeah.
her casual acceptance of violence,
Right.
her willingness to exploit others
Yeah.
for what she says is the greater good.
Yeah, for the cause.
It clashes so much
Yeah,
with their message of freedom and compassion.
it does.
So this experience for Liam with the Children's League,
Yeah.
while short-lived,
Right.
really shapes his understanding of the world
It does.
and ultimately pushes him to seek a different path,
It does, yeah.
which leads him to Ruby, Chubbs, and Zoo.
Right.
It's a chance meeting,
Uh-huh.
but it quickly evolves into something deeper.
Yeah, what really stood out to me about this
Yeah.
was how Liam, despite his trauma
Mhm.
and distrust,
Yeah,
chooses to help this group.
he does.
He offers them a ride, and this tentative bond starts to form. They're all wary of each other at first.
Understandably so.
But there's this shared understanding,
Yeah.
a kinship that comes from their shared experiences.
Yeah, it really is a great example
The
of
faith.
the power of found families,
Yeah.
especially for those who have been ostracized
Yeah.
and dehumanized by society.
Yeah.
They create this space where
Yeah.
they can just be themselves
Right.
and where their abilities are accepted.
Yeah, and they can heal from their past.
Yeah.
And what I love is their personalities, too.
Oh, yeah.
You have Liam, this protective leader who loves music.
Yeah.
You have Chubbs, who's this intelligent skeptic,
Mhm.
but he's got this gruff exterior.
Yeah.
And then you have Zoo, who's this quiet observer
Yeah.
and communicates through sign language.
They really are this mismatched bunch.
They are.
But their differences become their strength.
Yeah,
And they learn to rely on each other
that's right.
and challenge each other to grow.
Exactly.
So this bond, it fuels their search for East River, this legendary safe haven
Right.
supposedly established by the Slip Kid.
Uh-huh.
Now, the Slip Kid is a fascinating figure.
He is.
Someone who helps Psy kids escape
Yeah.
from these camps
Yeah.
and then just disappears.
Right, without a trace.
Like a phantom,
Yeah.
a symbol of hope and resistance.
He is, and his existence really challenges that established order, doesn't it?
It does.
He embodies that spirit of rebellion, that refusal to be controlled.
Yeah, the fact that they believe in him and are seeking out East River
Yeah.
speaks to their yearning for freedom,
He does.
for a place where they can belong.
Absolutely.
So they embark on this journey and they encounter both danger and hope.
Yes.
They rely on these cryptic clues like the radio frequency 540 AM
Right.
that they believe is connected to the Slip Kid.
Uh-huh.
And they uncover remnants of the past,
Yeah.
like an abandoned campground
Yeah.
where other Psy kids once sought refuge.
Yeah.
These discoveries fuel their determination
And he do.
and strengthen their resolve.
Mhm.
So each step forward,
Yeah.
each obstacle overcome,
Uh-huh.
reinforces their belief that East River exists
Yeah.
and that they can reach it.
Right.
But their journey also exposes them to the harsh realities of the world outside the camps.
It does.
They encounter prejudice, violence, and the constant threat of capture.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even outside the confines of Thurmond,
Right.
the fight for survival is far from over.
Yeah.
So they finally arrive at East River.
Yeah.
But it's not what they expected.
It's not, no.
Instead of finding this utopia,
Uh-huh.
they encounter a community led by Clancy Gray,
Yeah.
this blue boy who initially seems welcoming,
Right.
but quickly reveals a darker, more manipulative side.
That's right.
Now, Clancy is a fascinating character.
He is.
He genuinely believes
Yeah.
that he's creating a safe haven for Psy kids.
Yeah.
But his methods are often questionable.
They are.
He's a master of mind control.
Yeah.
He uses his blue abilities to manipulate others
Right.
and maintain a tight grip on the community.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wears black clothing,
They do.
symbolizing uniformity and the suppression of individuality.
That's right.
There's just this palpable sense of unease, of control lurking beneath the surface.
Yes, it's a far cry from the freedom and acceptance they were looking for.
Totally.
Clancy's rule really raises those questions, doesn't it?
It does.
About order and control and
Yeah.
the fine line between protecting a community
Yeah.
and stripping away individual freedoms.
It's like he's replicating the very system they were trying to escape.
Yeah, he is.
So this sets the stage for a growing conflict between Ruby and Clancy,
It does.
because she resists his attempts to control her,
Yeah.
to isolate her from Liam and Jubbs,
Right.
and to use her powers for his purposes.
She sees right through him.
Yeah, she recognizes the danger he poses.
Uh-huh.
This conflict, it's not just about
Yeah.
personal power struggles.
It's not.
It's about fundamental ideologies.
Yes.
Ruby represents that pursuit of individual freedom.
And Clancy believes in control
Yeah,
as the way to ensure security and stability.
that's right.
This really mirrors
Yeah.
a lot of real-world conflicts.
Yeah.
On one hand, we want freedom and autonomy,
Right.
but on the other hand,
Oh,
we
yeah.
need order and security.
Well,
So
yeah.
where do we draw the line?
Right.
How do we balance these competing desires?
And it's even more complicated when you add in Ruby's own struggles with
Yeah,
her abilities.
she's still learning to control her powers,
Right.
and she's terrified of hurting those she cares about.
She's fighting a battle on two fronts, isn't she?
She is.
Against Clancy, this external force,
Yeah.
and then her own internal demons.
And she carries so much guilt
She does.
from past mistakes
Yeah.
of, unintentionally hurting people.
Yeah.
And she just desperately wants to prevent that from happening again.
Right.
It's a lot for anyone to carry,
It is.
especially someone so young.
Absolutely. And it makes her relatable, doesn't it? It does.
Even though she has these powers,
Yeah.
she's still human. She's still vulnerable.
And all this leads to a dramatic escape from East River.
It does.
And that escape, with all its chaos and violence,
Uh-huh.
becomes a turning point for Liam,
It does.
because it forces him to confront the cyclical nature of violence.
Right.
How those who've been victims can become perpetrators.
Yeah.
And how trauma is just passed down
Yeah.
from one generation to the next.
Absolutely.
And this is where Liam's story takes a dark turn.
It does.
We see Clancy's betrayal, Liam's capture by the PSFs,
Yeah.
and Ruby's desperate attempts to save him, which lead to her unleashing the full force of her powers.
It's a moment of both triumph and tragedy.
It is.
It highlights that cost of freedom.
It really does.
So it leaves us with that question.
Yeah,
At what cost does freedom come?
a good question.
What is she willing to sacrifice
Yeah,
to protect the people she loves?
yeah.
And what will become of Liam? He's back in the clutches of the system
Back where he started.
that he fought so hard to escape.
So those are questions that will propel us into the next part of our deep dive.
They will.
But before we move on, what are your initial thoughts on this first part of Liam's story?
Yeah, what resonates with you the most?
What questions are you left pondering?
It's interesting you bring up the cost of freedom,
Yeah,
because that theme really permeates Liam's story.
it does.
He's constantly faced with these choices
Yeah.
that have really significant consequences,
Uh-huh.
and they force him to confront the darkness,
Yeah.
within himself
Totally.
and the world around him.
It's not even just the big dramatic choices, like
Mhm.
whether to escape, whether to use his powers
Yeah.
to fight back.
It's the smaller, more personal choices, like
Yeah.
whether to trust someone, whether to open up about his
Mhm.
feelings,
Yeah,
whether to hold on to hope when everything seems lost.
absolutely.
And speaking of his powers, this section really dives into his unique ability,
It does.
which we know is distinct from Ruby's mind manipulation.
Right.
You highlighted in your notes that Liam can influence emotions and memories
Yeah.
through sound
Uh-huh.
and music.
It's a very subtle but powerful ability.
It is. It's fascinating.
It's like he's a conductor of emotions,
Yeah.
able to evoke specific feelings
Right.
through these melodies he creates.
It seems to be a reflection of his own personality.
It does.
This gentle nature,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
his love for music.
Uh-huh.
It's a way for him to connect with people
On a deeper level.
on a much deeper level.
And it's so different from some of the other Psy's abilities.
Yeah, it's not forceful.
No.
It's not intrusive.
Right.
His power speaks to the potential for healing, for connection, using these abilities to create
Right.
rather than to destroy.
There's that scene you marked where Liam uses his music to
It's-
calm Ruby down.
Yeah, after her outburst.
Yeah, after that really violent outburst.
Right.
And it's just so powerful
It is.
because it shows how music can transcend language
It can.
and touch us
Yes.
on this deeper level.
It offers solace and peace
Yeah.
in the middle of chaos.
It really highlights the potential of his ability.
It does.
That power doesn't always have to be destructive.
That's right.
It can soothe, it can heal, it can bring people together.
Absolutely.
But the story doesn't shy away from the darker parts of his journey either.
It doesn't.
He carries this heavy burden of guilt,
He does.
especially for his brother, Cole.
Yeah, his relationship with his family,
Yeah.
especially Cole, is really interesting because it's the source of strength,
Uh-huh.
but also conflict for him.
Yeah.
He wants their acceptance, their understanding,
Yeah.
but they don't really get it.
They can't comprehend what he's going through.
No, not really.
Like there's that scene where Liam, after escaping Thurmond,
Right.
tries to reach out to Cole to
Yeah.
find some comfort.
Some support.
Yeah.
But Cole's reaction is just fear
Yeah.
and confusion and anger.
It really illustrates that disconnect
It does.
between those who've experienced this world of psi abilities
Yeah.
and those who haven't.
Yeah, it's like he's caught in between, isn't he?
He is.
Not
Yeah.
belonging to either world.
Right. He's different. He's ostracized
Yeah.
by a society that fears what it doesn't understand.
Yeah. And that search for belonging,
Yeah.
for a place where he can be himself,
Yeah.
is so powerful.
It is.
And that's what makes his connection
Mm.
to Ruby, Chubbs, and Zoo
Yeah.
so important.
They see him. They accept him.
They do.
They understand him.
Yeah, and they become his family.
They do.
The people he relies on.
Uh-huh.
The people he feels safe with.
And their journey together
Yeah.
really forges this unbreakable bond between them.
It does.
There's a recurring motif in Liam's story
Uh-huh.
that you pointed out in your notes.
Yes.
The color black.
Yes. Black seems to represent this duality in his story.
It does.
Both fear and unity,
Yeah.
like inside Thurmond.
Uh-huh.
It's the color of those painted bus windows.
Yeah.
It symbolizes that darkness that confines them
Right.
and the isolation they experience.
Like they're shut off from the world,
Yeah.
trapped in this perpetual state of night.
Uh-huh.
But then at East River,
Yeah.
black takes on a different meaning.
It does.
Everyone's wearing black clothing.
Yeah.
Not as a sign of mourning,
Right.
but as a symbol of uniformity,
Yes.
a shared identity.
It's like they're reclaiming it,
Yeah.
turning it into a symbol of resilience
Yeah.
and solidarity.
They really reflect the complexities of
Yeah.
their situation.
Right.
They're fighting against darkness,
Uh-huh.
but they're finding strength within that darkness,
Yeah.
within their shared experiences,
Absolutely.
within that collective identity,
And that ties into another theme, too.
which is hope.
Despite all the darkness, the trauma,
Ah,
constant threat, they
Mhm.
never lose hope.
they don't.
They believe that things can get better.
Yeah.
That they can find a place where they belong, where they're
Uh-huh.
accepted. That search for East River,
Yeah.
even though it ends in disappointment,
Right.
represents that hope.
It does.
It symbolizes that longing for a better future,
It does.
that belief that things can be different.
And it's that act of searching,
Is.
that belief in something better
Yeah,
that keeps them going.
absolutely. It's a really powerful force,
It is.
even in the darkest times.
It sustains us.
It does.
It motivates us
Uh-huh.
to keep fighting for something better.
Absolutely.
So Liam's story isn't just about that external conflict
Right.
with the government,
Uh-huh.
the struggle for freedom.
No, it's also about the internal struggles,
Yeah.
the emotional toll that all this takes on them.
We see Liam grappling with the guilt.
Yeah.
The responsibility for the deaths of those he couldn't save.
Yeah, for the trauma that his loved ones have gone through.
And Ruby is battling her own demons.
She
That
is.
fear of losing control.
Yeah.
That anxiety about hurting people.
Yeah.
Their journeys are raw and honest.
They are.
And deeply moving.
It's a reminder that
Yeah.
even people with these extraordinary abilities
Mm.
are still human.
They are.
They're still vulnerable.
And that vulnerability makes them so relatable.
It does.
We see ourselves in their struggles, in
Yeah.
their triumphs, in their search for meaning
Yeah.
and connection
Right.
in this world that feels chaotic and unforgiving.
So Liam's story also interweaves with the events
It does.
of the main Darkest Minds narrative.
Yeah, it's like we're getting this behind-the-scenes look
Yeah.
at these characters and events.
Yeah, from a different angle.
Like Lady Jane.
Yes.
this prominent figure in the Psy resistance. We see her through Liam's eyes,
We-
not just as a leader,
Yeah.
but as a human being,
Right.
affected by trauma and loss.
Yeah.
It really humanizes her.
It does.
It gives us a deeper understanding of her motivations.
Yeah, her choices.
And then Liam's experience with the Children's League gives us a more nuanced view
It does.
of their operations.
Right? Their recruitment tactics,
Uh-huh.
their internal struggles.
It's not so black and white.
No, it's not.
There's this gray area.
There is, even within those organizations
Yeah.
dedicated to fighting for what's right,
Uh-huh.
there can be those internal struggles.
Totally.
And that tension between the means
Yeah.
and the ends.
And then Liam's account of Thurmond
Yes.
adds this emotional weight to Ruby's experiences.
It does.
It allows us to connect with her
Yeah.
on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
So we're piecing together this more complete picture
We are.
of this world, filling in the gaps
Yeah.
with each story.
It's what makes this so engaging.
It is.
Because we're not just passively taking this in.
No.
We're actively engaging,
Right.
analyzing it,
Yeah.
making connections.
And Liam's story isn't just this thrilling adventure.
No, it's not.
It challenges us to think about these complex issues.
It does.
You know, power, control, freedom.
Yeah, the ethics of using those abilities.
And it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths
It does.
about ourselves
Uh-huh.
and the world around us.
And it does it in such a thought-provoking
It does.
but emotionally resonant way.
Right. We're not just reading about these issues.
No, we're experiencing them
Yeah.
through the eyes of these characters.
We're feeling their pain,
Yeah.
sharing their hopes,
Right.
wrestling with their dilemmas.
And one of the most compelling things for me
Yeah.
is how Liam explores those ethics of power.
Yeah.
He sees how power can corrupt
He does.
even those with good intentions.
From Thurmond to the Children's League to Clancy Gray.
Yeah.
He sees it all. He's constantly confronted
Yes.
with the dark side of power.
And it forces him to question his own beliefs, right?
It does.
His values,
Yeah.
how he uses his own abilities.
He's searching for a moral compass
He is.
in this world
Yeah.
where the lines are blurred.
Absolutely.
And it challenges us to do the same,
It does.
to really examine our own beliefs
Yeah.
about power,
About power.
our own complicity
Yeah.
in these systems,
Right.
and our responsibility to create a more just world.
It's not just about those external forces. It's
Right.
also about the internal ones.
Yeah.
Liam has to face his own darkness.
It does.
His anger, his fear,
Yeah.
his capacity for violence.
It's a struggle to find that balance
It is.
between wanting to protect himself and those he loves
Uh-huh.
and staying true to his values.
His belief in the good in humanity.
And that's something we can all relate to.
I think so.
We all have our own darkness to contend with.
Right.
And it's through these characters
Yeah.
that we can explore that in a safe space.
And that exploration can be really cathartic.
It can. And we can confront our own shadows,
Yes.
wrestle with those ethical dilemmas,
Yeah.
and come out with a deeper understanding
Absolutely.
of ourselves and the world.
That's right.
So as we approach the end of Liam's story,
Yeah.
we're left with this feeling of
Mm.
closure,
Yeah.
but also uncertainty.
Yes.
The crisis is over,
Yeah.
but the struggle continues.
The larger struggle.
Continues. And Liam, forever changed,
Yes.
has to navigate this future
He does.
full of possibilities and perils.
So before we go into those final moments,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts so far?
What resonates with you?
What questions are you left with? Yeah, it's interesting how Liam's story ends, It's like a resolution, but
Mhm.
also ambiguity at the same time.
Right. The immediate crisis is resolved,
Yeah,
but it leaves you wanting more.
it does.
Like you turn that last page of a book,
Yeah.
you're just left wondering.
You want to peek into that next chapter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think.
It does.
Like, what happens next?
What happens next?
So what choices will these characters make?
Right.
And for Liam,
Yeah.
he's got this huge dilemma.
He does.
Does he go back to his family,
Right.
who might not really understand him?
Yeah, might not accept him for who he is.
Or does he rejoin Ruby and Chubbs and Zoo,
Right. His found family.
his found family?
And keep fighting for this world where Psy kids can live freely.
Oh, what would you do?
That's a tough one.
It is.
It really highlights those complexities
It does.
of belonging and identity.
Yeah, his whole journey has been about
Yeah.
finding his place
Yeah.
in this world that's rejected him.
Uh-huh.
He's found acceptance with his Psy companions.
Yeah.
But there's still that pull,
There is.
to his family.
That yearning.
Yeah, to be loved and understood by them.
And that's something so many of us can relate to.
I think so.
This feeling of being pulled between different worlds.
Yeah, like we all have those different parts of ourselves, those
Right.
different groups that we belong to.
Right.
And sometimes they feel at odds with each other.
They do.
So how do you reconcile that? How do
Exactly.
you embrace all those different parts of yourself?
And find that sense of belonging
Yeah.
that encompasses all those pieces.
So while the story doesn't actually tell us what Liam chooses,
Right.
it gives us these little hints,
It does. It does.
like breadcrumbs.
Yeah, clues we can put together.
And they point towards a future where it seems like he keeps using his abilities for good,
Yeah.
whether that's with his family
Right.
or the Psy community.
There's that scene where he talks about using his music to help others, to heal,
Yeah.
to bring people together.
He's found his purpose,
He has.
a way to channel those abilities in a positive way.
And that purpose is so crucial
It is
for someone who's gone through so much trauma.
to reclaim his power
Yeah.
and use it to create something good
Absolutely.
in a world full of darkness.
And isn't that what this story is really about?
I think it is.
You know?
Finding hope
Yeah.
in the midst of despair.
Resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah.
And that power of human connection to heal and transform.
It's a story that reminds us that even when things are dark,
Yeah.
there's always light
If we're willing to look for it.
if we're willing to look for it.
And sometimes that light comes from the most unexpected places.
It does.
The kindness of strangers.
Right.
The beauty of music.
The unwavering belief
Yeah.
that things can get better.
And it's that belief,
Yeah.
that hope
Yeah.
that keeps us going,
It does.
that drives us to keep fighting
Keep fighting.
for a better tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Liam's story is a testament to the power of the human spirit,
It is.
our capacity for courage, for compassion, for creativity.
It stays with you, doesn't it?
It does.
It makes you think. Makes you feel.
And question.
Question.
And ultimately, it leaves you with a sense of hope,
It does.
that belief that even in the darkest times,
Yeah.
we can find our way back to the light.
To the light.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Liam's story.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've gained a new perspective
A new perspective.
on the darkest minds and that it sparked some interesting conversations.
Absolutely.
And remember,
Yeah.
the story doesn't end here.
No,
It's up to us to imagine what happens next,
that's right.
to take these themes
Yeah.
and these messages
Yeah.
into our own lives.
And to keep fighting for a better world.
A world where everyone is free to be themselves
To love who they choose.
and to live a life filled with purpose and meaning.
Absolutely.